Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a Queensland update today from Oz Cyclone Chasers, the 10th of October 2016. My name's Chris Nitzo. This update is sponsored by our major sponsor, Campbell Scientific Australia, when measurements matter. Folks, we've got a bit of a Gulf line pushing through the northern parts of the Gulf of Carpentaria, but other than that, there's been very little to speak of. Don't worry too much about these radar echoes. That's just radar clutter, so it's not actually rainfall falling from the sky. You can see the satellite imagery here shows us a very sky clear conditions right across the state, except for perhaps some lower cloud or possibly even some fog patches between Rocky and Brisbane. A southerly change moved through the southern parts of Queensland yesterday, and that created some very isolated shower activity right here along the southern border ranges, right in the southeast coast, Gold Coast hinterland region. There's also been a little bit of shower activity up here along the north tropical coast, but it's been very weak. We've also had yesterday particularly a few showers that were popping through in the North Peninsula as well, but you can see here totals are completely unremarkable. In terms of how much moisture there is in the atmosphere, you can see that the northern parts of the peninsula are pretty well the only places where there's any sort of depth of atmospheric moisture. There is a little bit of moisture here along the coastline around Hervey Bay, and that could be the catalyst for maybe an extremely isolated weak shower there between Bundy and Rocky, and you can see that on the computer model here, but less than a millimetre expected out of that. So through the day today, we're going to see an upper level trough push through the southern parts of Queensland. Now, unfortunately for those regions, it's too dry to take advantage of that upper trough. But as we go into Wednesday afternoon, you can see here by Wednesday afternoon, there's a lot of moisture in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, which will allow showers to pop up on the central coast and Whitsundays region, the Capricornia region. So we're talking here around Wednesday afternoon where we see that activity push through. And so we've got a little bit of moisture lagging back through here. So let's talk a little bit more about Wednesday and then Thursday and then Friday. So the first sign of rainfall from this system actually looks like it's going to hit around about Tuesday evening around this Bundy to Sunshine Coast area. It's going to be extremely light. We can see there as we go to Wednesday 1 a.m. just overnight Wednesday there. Overnight Tuesday and into Wednesday, we're seeing a fair chunk of area from around about Gladstone, as I say, to about the Sunshine Coast, expecting to see some shower activity. Continues through to 4 a.m. Into 7 a.m. we start to see some very light showers developing off the coast of Mackay to Rocky. See some moisture penetrating inland a little bit as well, so inland between Rocky to Emerald we start to see possible shower activity, as well as an increase in shower activity here between St. Lawrence and Mackay. Through the early afternoon period on Wednesday, we can see this shower activity right in through this Mackay hinterland area, as well as along the coastline between probably around Hervey Bay now northwards. And look, it's only going to be fairly light, but some of this convective activity, so some of the storm and afternoon shower activity that develops just inland of the coast could be a little bit stronger. As we head through to 4 p.m. here, you can see from around about Bundy north to about Bowen, we've got shower activity with storm activity possible through the inland parts of Mackay all the way down to around about St. Lawrence. That storm activity between Mackay and Bowen continues through to Wednesday evening, and the shower activity continues right along the coastline here. Although, as I said, the coastal shower activity pretty weak. It's more so the storm activity just inland of the coast, and what we're hoping will happen is that storm activity will push to the east. When we look at the winds that will be pushing these storms that do develop on Wednesday, or the showers at least that do develop just inland on Wednesday, you can see that the winds are going to push everything from the west towards the east. So these are our steering level flow or steering level winds, and you can see there that they're pushing things from west to east, probably at around about 15 knots or so, so about 30 kilometers an hour, maybe a little bit more than that. We can see that the storm hotspot there for Wednesday afternoon is probably around this Serena all the way west out here towards Collinsville. This is our focus area of storm activity, and remembering of course that all of that storm activity is expected to push towards the coast at around that 30 plus kilometre an hour mark. Just remember though, we're not expecting any stupendous totals out of this. We're probably looking at overall, because the storms will be moving pretty quickly, they'll be reasonably isolated. There won't be thousands of them. We're probably only going to see patches that might get 5 to 10 millimeters out of them. So we're not expecting to see too much. There's not enough moisture in the atmosphere to allow for very heavy falls to develop with these storms. On Thursday, the expectation is that those storms will once again develop near the coastal ranges, a little bit further to the north, all the way north to around Townsville, extend southwards towards Camilla at this stage, with the heaviest of activity expected between Bowen and Mackay. And looking at our K index for that particular day, so this is an index that looks at where storm potential is. It's an initial look, and then what we can do is we can start to hone in on particular locations. But for today, all we need to worry about are where these locations could be. And so you can see that there's probably some storm potential anywhere from around the inland ranges of Paluma all the way down, but in particular here, to the back end of air around the Burdekin Dam here, Collinsville region, extending southwards towards Nebo, Moranbah, that area there. Any further west than that though, it gets too dry. Any further east, well, we need a little bit more heating, and so this sort of is the sweet spot, if you like, for any shower and storm activity on Thursday. Now the computer models do differ on Thursday. Some of them want to push the storm activity further north towards Townsville. Some of them want to keep it further south towards Mackay only. And you can see here on the GFS forecast model that we're looking at storm potential anywhere from the inland parts of the Atherton or the Atherton tablelands themselves, all the way through to the ranges here near Ingham, Cardwell, extending a little bit of a donut hole around Townsville. That's pretty typical, isn't it? And then we've got this slight decrease in storm activity until we get to just inland of Bowen here and this area inland of Mackay. One thing that models do agree on is that chance for these storms to become quite strong and severe is going to be limited here on Thursday. Just more of your run-of-the-mill type thunderstorm activity as opposed to severe storm activity, according to the Severe Weather Threat Index. In the Severe Weather Threat Index, we're looking for values around that 250 plus mark for any chance of severe weather, and then we're looking at 300 plus for a good chance of severe weather. We don't have that threshold met on Thursday's storm or Wednesday's storm activity. So focused a lot on the storms between the Atherton Tablelands and the Mackay area, or just south of Mackay area, but you can see here the storm activity is expected to continue further to the north as well. So we're expecting to see storm activity all the way north towards Weipa through the peninsula region. So it just doesn't stop at the Atherton Tableland, so it does continue further to the northwest. Now when we get to Friday, it gets tricky because we're expecting to see a southerly change pushing through, drying things out further to the south, making things wetter further to the north, and we're not exactly sure how that's going to interact with the current shower and storm activity that should be located in that Mackay to Townsville area. So if we see some fairly strong interaction there between a couple of different air masses, we'll see a fair amount of rainfall falling in this region, anywhere pretty well from the southern Cassowary coast all the way down towards the Whitsundays, possibly Mackay area. Now, the computer models are very different in their interpretation of this particular process. Some of them, like the Euro, push all of the rain fairly quickly up here between Cairns and Ingham. The others are a little bit more lenient and keep the rainfall a lot further to the south for a lot longer. And so this is one of the others. This is the GFS. We're looking here at rainfall between 10 p.m. Thursday and 4 a.m. on Friday. You can see continuation of shower storm, possible rain activity here between Mackay and Townsville. That activity then starts to focus between Bowen and Ingham on Friday morning between 4 and 10 in the morning, and then we see showers and storms rebuilding again on Friday afternoon. Now this part obviously is the tricky part because there's other computer models here that have nothing of the sort, and let's have a quick look at the Euro in this time period. So here are those afternoon storms on Thursday. Look, most of the models are very much on board with those storms out the back of Mackay to sort of Bowen, possibly extending north to Townsville. And so you can see that the expectation on the Euro is exactly the same as that. As we go to Thursday evening, you can see continuation of the residual storm activity. As we go to Thursday night, overnight Thursday into Friday, you can see here that this activity now moving in overnight towards Townsville. You can see wide as well. You can see we've got easterly winds here and we've got southeasterly winds here, and they're sort of converging and they're creating some shower activity in that region, and that's why we've got it. But because the air's been quite dry in the lead up, we're not going to see massive falls from that in that period. So as we go through to Friday 7 a.m. 10 a.m. you can just make out some shower activity. And then as we go through to 3 p.m. on the Friday, you can see the possibility of some convective showers just on the ranges here on that southeasterly stream, just creating a bit of forcing. But you can see where the most of the activity on the Friday is on the Euro, much further to the north and west. So you can see here anywhere from around Cairns down to about Cardwell is where the Euro is predicting a lot of its rainfall in the Friday afternoon, Friday evening. As we go to Friday night, you'll start to see showers building now. Once that southeasterly kicks in, you start to see showers, particularly here on the wet coast of Queensland, which is the Cassowary coast, all the way down to about Rolling Stone. You've got fairly decent rainfall coming out of that. So you've got falls of 5 to 10 millimetres over 3 hours for an extended period here through Friday night into Saturday morning, and then continuing through most of the weekend in this region. Although it will push further to the north towards Port Douglas and Cooktown as we go through the weekend. So looking at rainfall totals over the next 6 days across the state, 5 to 10 mils here around the southeast corner, a little bit less around Hervey Bay, extending into the central coast, central Capricornia region, I should say. We should be looking at around 5 millimetres as well. Remember, there's going to be some shower and storm activity there, possibly on the Wednesday, although most of that will be north. As we head north towards Mackay, anywhere from 5 to 25, possibly even 30 millimetres in parts here across the Mackay region. That doesn't extend that far to the west, so if you're heading back towards Moranbah or Claremont, a lot less rainfall possible. You might see the start of that shower and storm activity around Moranbah, but it probably won't last very long around your area. It's just too dry. As we head up towards Ayr, Home Hill, Bowen, that region there, we're looking more around that 5 to 15 millimetres. The typical donut hole around Townsville, probably more around the 5 millimetres, maybe 10 if we're lucky. Heading back towards Charters Towers, there might be just enough moisture to create some shower and storm activity back in towards the towers, maybe as far west as, I'd say maybe Pentland, but that might be a little bit too far to the west. But you can see further northwards here in the inland regions, 5 to 10 millimetres over the next 6 days. Further north up around Ingham, 20 to 40 millimetres possible, especially from Rolling Stone northwards. And then that'll continue through the wet tropics coastline, which is this Cassowary coast between sort of Innisfail down towards Ingham itself. So you're looking here 20 to 40 millimetres. Up around Cairns, another little bit of a donut hole, 10 to 20 millimetres in that area. Then up to Port Douglas here, we're looking at around 20 to 40 millimetres as well. Getting up to Cooktown, starting to peter off the rainfall totals back to 5 to 10 millimetres. Extending all the way west out here towards Weipa, so even Weipa's expecting to see showers and storms at some stage over the next 5 or 6 days, with total rainfalls of around 5 millimetres. Pretty good conditions on the water right through Queensland, unless you're in Cooktown northwards, in which case you're looking at 15 to 20 knots. But anywhere further to the south, though, this morning is beautiful. Even into this afternoon, you can still see beautiful conditions on the water. However, we will start to see a northerly increasing here around the Gold Coast at around 15 to 20 knots. That northerly extends towards the Sunshine Coast by this evening. And overnight tonight, that could get up to 20 to 25, maybe even 25 to 30 knots just offshore here off the Gold Coast. So just be aware of that. Other than that, it's beautiful boating conditions for the day. So enjoy, if you're living south of Cooktown, enjoy your day on the water. Thanks for watching this update, folks. For those of you that want to know how to get access to these maps and charts, ozcyclonechasers.com.au, click on subscribe to OCC, and for $38.50 a year, you'll be able to access those charts. And you'll be able to get daily videos just like this one for your particular state during the wet season and the build-up season if you live in Queensland, Northern Territory and WA. Plus, of course, you'll be supporting us in our cyclone documentary efforts. Those graphics and charts will become available at the end of this week to our subscribers. So ozcyclonechasers.com.au and click on subscribe to OCC. Thanks for watching this update, Queenslanders. I'll have another chat to you tomorrow if you're a subscriber. Otherwise, in about 10 days' time, I'll release another one to the public and we'll have a look at what's going on weather-wise at that time. Have a great day.